The letters we never wrote to each other. These are letters written across generations on motherhood, survival, and what we passed down in silence, shaped by the roles we were taught to live inside of. By Humble Warrior. Dearest daughter, I've been carrying this message close to my heart for a long time. I told myself the past was the past, that our relationship now is so wonderful. Why disturb it? Watching your life unfold has forced me to see something I can't unsee now. That my silence only protected me, not you. Oh, when you were very little, I was home with you. Not for long, but long enough to remember. I remember the sound of your little footsteps. Oh, how you followed me everywhere. I remember how you would snuggle up right under my chin and sit so close to me. You just wanted to be a part of whatever I was doing. Those days felt slow and ordinary. And at the time, you felt smaller than the life I thought I was supposed to want. I loved you deeply, but I didn't feel fulfilled. And no one ever told me those two things could exist at the same time. I didn't know that fulfillment could live inside the ordinary. We were taught to want more, to become more, to be more than what our mothers had been. So when I went to work, it felt like the right thing. It felt like progress. It felt like standing up for myself, for women, for the idea that we were allowed to want something beyond our homes. I didn't think of it as leaving you. I thought of it as becoming who I was supposed to be. What I didn't understand then was that trying to be everything meant I was never fully anywhere for anyone, especially you. I worked all day and came home to what became my second job, caring for a house, a marriage, children. I carried it all without ever resting inside any part of it. I was tired in a way I didn't have language for, worn down in ways no one noticed or asked about. Slowly, without meaning to, I lost sight of who I had been. And I didn't know who I was becoming. When my motherly instincts surfaced, they hurt. They reminded me of what I couldn't give you. So I pushed them down and I told myself, this is just the way it has to be. I felt guilty for wanting you the way I did. I pulled away because distance felt easier than longing for what could no longer be. You learned how to take care of yourself at 6 years old. I was so proud of you. You wore a key around your neck that opened quiet, empty rooms at the end of your day. You learned how to let yourself in, how to wait, how to make time pass. In the summer, I sent you outside and I told you not to come home until dinner. I told myself this was normal. I told myself this was good for you. I told myself I was raising a responsible and independent child. I never asked you how it felt to be alone. I remember when you were 7 and you would call me when you got home from school. I had rules. I told you not to call unless it was an emergency, and still you called. Not because something was wrong, but because you wanted to hear my voice. Because you missed me. Because you loved me. because mommy wasn't there for you like she once was. I remember dreading those phone calls. I remember reminding you of the rule. I remember thinking you were old enough now. I told myself I was teaching you independence. But I also remember how my heart ached every time I hung up that phone. The dread was the reality of the pain I felt being away from you, but I masked it with anger. I didn't understand at the time that you were too young for that freedom, that you needed me there with you. You needed my arms to rush into after you got home from school. And you needed someone to talk to about your day, not keys that led to cold, empty rooms. I see now how quiet you became, how little you asked for, how easily you learned not to need too much. I told myself you were so strong. I didn't understand that strength for a child often looks like silence. I didn't teach you how to be a wife or a mother because I didn't know how to be one without losing myself. I didn't want you to live that life I felt trapped inside of. I thought if I raised you to need only yourself, you would never feel the resentment, exhaustion, and guilt I carried. I didn't see then that in trying to make you strong, I was also teaching you how to stand alone. When I look at you now as a woman, a wife, a mother, I see how much you carry with you from your childhood. How hard you try to be everything for everyone. How often you put yourself last without even realizing it. And I recognize it immediately because it looks like me. It breaks my heart to understand the very things I believed would free you became the weight you learned to live under. I see how early you learned to accept less than you deserved, how quickly you learned to be grateful for whatever love showed up, how deeply you learned that being agreeable, quiet, and easy made life smoother. Those lessons didn't appear out of nowhere. They came from me. This is the grief I live with now. Not that I worked, not that I wanted more, but that in trying to become something, I missed so much of you, that my exhaustion became something you carried, that my absence taught you how to wait and go unnoticed. I would go and give anything to go back, to answer the phone differently, to sit with you longer, to tell you that you didn't have to grow up so fast, to tell you that you were allowed to need me, that it was okay to be soft and vulnerable sometimes, that strength need not define your entire self. I can't change what I did. I wish I could. I can only tell you the truth now and hope you hear it the way it's meant to be heard. I love you deeply, even when I didn't know how to show up the way you needed. I truly believed I was doing the right thing. I didn't see how much I was missing while I was trying so hard to do it all. I am so sorry for the ways I hurt you while thinking I was protecting you. Please know this. You were never too much. You were never a burden. There was never anything wrong with you. You were my daughter, and you were always enough, even when I didn't know how to say it. I love you. always, Mom. My daughter, I've been thinking about you a lot lately, about the woman you are becoming and about the woman I was when I was raising you, still unsure, still trying to understand myself. I don't know how to say what I need to say without it hurting, but I've learned that avoiding the hurt only hurts more the longer it's held on to. I grew up watching my mother change right in front of me. She began a home, building her days around her family, doing what women had always been told mattered most. Then a door opened that hadn't been opened before. Women were finally being told they had the right to want more, the right to work, the right to stand on their own. It wasn't framed as rejection of family. It was framed as progress, as dignity, as choice. And she stepped into it believing she was doing something important, not just for herself, but for me. So she went to work. And before she even realized it, she was expected to carry everything. I watched her juggle a job, a house, a marriage, and a child, always moving, never really stopping. I watched how tired she became, how that tiredness slowly turned into distance. I don't think she meant to leave me alone as much as she did. I think she just was stretched too thin. I learned how to let myself in after school, how to wait, how to keep myself occupied. I learned early that needing things, if I needed less, it was easier for everyone. At the time, I didn't know how much that was shaping me. I just thought this was how life was. It wasn't until I was older that I realized the ground had shifted under my feet, too. The world I was stepping into didn't look like the one my parents had known. Men were no longer expected to only provide the way my father had. They were expected to be partners, present fathers, emotionally available. But many of them hadn't been raised to know how to do that. And women were expected to do what our mothers had done and more: work, raise children, hold everything together, stay attractive, stay agreeable, and still feel fulfilled. There was no model for how any of this was supposed to work. No one showed me how to manage all of it at once. I didn't know how to balance it. I only knew how to keep going, how to endure. I married before I understood my own worth. I married the first man who made me feel chosen. That marriage taught me just how small a woman can feel when she is afraid of being alone. I stayed longer than I should have because I didn't have enough confidence in myself to leave. And when it finally ended, I promised myself my life would never look like that again. That I could not and would not model a marriage like that for my children. Fear guided almost every decision after that. When your father and I divorced, survival took over everything. I had to work, I had to provide, and the world told me that climbing was strength, that staying home was weakness, that ambition was empowerment. I chose the corporate ladder because I had to. I resented it, and I relied on it at the same time. I watched other mothers enjoy motherhood in ways I couldn't. I saw them slow down, laugh, delight in small moments with their children. And I envied them more than I ever admitted. I wanted that joy. I wanted that life. But I didn't feel I was allowed to want it. Choosing it felt like failure. Living it felt like vulnerability. So I kept moving forward. I told myself I was strong. I told myself I was doing this for you. I told myself that one day you would understand. When you were little and asked me to play, I said I didn't have time. When you asked me to stay, I said I had to go to work. When you asked me why, I said the same thing every time. One day you'll understand. I can still see your blue eyes looking up at me, filling with tears. And eventually, you just stopped asking. As you got older, I started trying to explain myself, not with honesty, with lessons. I told you what I thought would keep you safe in a world that had hurt me so deeply. I told you that you didn't need a man, that you should make your own money, that you should never depend on anyone. I said those things because I was hurt, because I was afraid, because I never wanted you to feel trapped the way I had been. I truly believed I was protecting you. What I couldn't see then was how much of my fear you were carrying with you. How my pushing myself made tenderness seem weak. How my exhaustion made motherhood feel heavy. How my independence quietly taught you that closeness wasn't something you could ever rely on. I understand now that I didn't just raise you with words. I raised you inside the life of fear I was a prisoner in. And in doing that, I shaped you around what the world had told me a woman should be, instead of what you actually needed to feel safe, grounded, loved, and whole. I grieve that. Not because I want to go backward, but because something important slipped away before either of us had the chance to choose differently. I was trying to fix what had wounded me, and I didn't see how that would shape you. When you struggle with love or question marriage or wonder whether motherhood would ever feel right, I need you to know this. It isn't because you're missing something. It's because you grew up inside a world that kept asking more of you without offering anything solid to stand on. I see that now. I see you. I see you. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to soften the parts of myself that learn to build fortresses instead of reaching for peace. I don't ask you to forgive me. I just want to know you, what you're afraid of, what you've been carrying, what you never felt safe saying. I want us to talk honestly and see if we can build something gentler than what we were given. I love you more than I ever knew how to show you when you were small. I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Love, Mom. Mom, I've been trying to find the right way to say this because I don't want to sound like I'm blaming you. I know how hard you worked. I know how much you did for our family. I know you were trying to protect me. But there are things I feel that I don't know how to hold quietly anymore. The world feels overwhelming to me in a way I don't think you were ever promised it would be. Everything feels so loud and divided, so tense. Like people are always bracing for the next thing to break or the next thing to follow. It's exhausting just to move through the days. Every morning begins with thoughts racing through my mind, thinking about money, about safety, about the future. some of what you taught me helps me survive all this. Knowing how to stand on my own matters. Knowing how to never rely too heavily on anyone matters. I don't take that lightly. I know those lessons came from your pain. I know you meant well and hoped they would keep me safe. But sometimes it feels like survival is the only thing I know how to do. I literally did what I was told. I went to college because you told me I needed to, because you believed it would protect me. I worked hard, I graduated, and I took on debt. And now I'm standing here with a degree that doesn't open the doors I thought it would, and a financial weight that feels impossible to outrun. I'm not angry at you for that. I know it was different when you were younger. I just don't know what it means for me now. I don't know how I'm supposed to imagine being a wife or a mother someday when I can barely afford to live, when everything feels temporary, when relationships feel fragile, when the world feels so angry, confused, and unstable. Sometimes I wonder how I'm supposed to care for a husband or bring a child into this world when it feels like I'm still trying to get my footing in a world without a foundation. I want love. I want connection. I want something steady, but I'm afraid of it too. I grew up watching how hard everything was for you. I saw how much you worked. I saw you become successful, but I also saw how irritable you were. I saw how much you had to be strong in a world that doesn't allow a woman to be soft. And I learned without anyone saying it out loud that wanting and needing too much was a dangerous road to go down. That the success I saw you accomplish time and time again cost us time together as a family and stole the soft side of you I wanted and needed from you. I don't think you meant to teach me that. I think you were just surviving, doing what you thought you had to do to give us the life you thought we needed. I think of you a lot when I reflect on the weight of carrying both the strength and loneliness of independence. Sometimes I feel strong, like I can take on the world, but then loneliness creeps in and reminds me I wasn't built for that. I wasn't meant to be alone. I wonder if you felt that way too, Mom. Like, I know how to stand. You taught me well. I know how to predict and react in order to survive, but I don't really know how to slow down, rest, and enjoy the world around me. I don't blame you, Mom. I really don't. I see you now more clearly than I did when I was younger. I see the sacrifices. I see the fear underneath the strength. I see the love that drove so many of your choices. I just need you to know that I'm still trying to figure out who I'm allowed to be in this world, what kind of woman I'm supposed to become, what kind of woman I want to become, how to want without feeling foolish, how to build a life that feels more than just endurance and survival. I don't need you to have answers. I don't need you to fix this. I just need you to hear me, to know that I'm trying to make sense of it all, the lessons, the losses, the love. I love you, and I'm still here trying. Your daughter. Reflections. I think somewhere along the way we forgot something, not because we didn't care, not because we chose wrong. We were busy trying to survive, trying to prove we were capable, trying to hold everything together without letting it show. And in the process, we learned how to be strong, but we forgot how to just be. There was a time when being a woman meant being rooted, being there, being needed in a way that didn't have to be justified. Family wasn't something you worked around or apologized for. It was the center of life. Love had weight, presence mattered, and somewhere along the way, that kind of life was dismissed as small or limiting or weak. I don't believe it was. I think something essential was lost when we decided it didn't count. We have lived in survival mode for a long time now. Many of us learned it from our mothers. We practiced it without realizing it. And without meaning to, we passed it on. You can see the cost if you're willing to look. Families stretched, then women tired in ways rest doesn't fix. Children spending more time being managed than being known. I don't think the answer is to push harder or become more. I think it's to remember, to ask what mattered before we learned how to live without it. Maybe the work now is quieter than we expected. Maybe it's choosing to rebuild around family again, around presence, around care. Maybe becoming whole isn't about inventing something new, but about reclaiming what once came naturally before survival taught us to let it go.